Today on Sports Central, we go over a college football bowl preview and prediction on the 2022 Outback Bowl matchup between the Penn State Nittany Lions and the Arkansas Razorbacks. One of the big matchups coming up here on New Year's Day. Both teams have had good seasons to this point. Should make for a good matchup in the Outback Bowl. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today, starting out with your team trends. Penn State lost to Michigan State 27-30 in the last game of the regular season. But for Penn State at 7-5, this is a football team that they've got the talent to be a much better football team than 7-5. So it's kind of been a disappointment season in that factor. But still, in a conference that's as brutal as the Big Ten, Penn State has done just fine. But they're facing off against Arkansas. They beat Missouri 34-17 in the last game of the regular season. They're 8-4 heading into this matchup, and you could definitely consider Arkansas to be one of the big surprise teams of this 2021 season. Arkansas at 8-4, they've knocked off some pretty good football teams and currently ranked number 21 in the nation heading into this matchup. It'll be on Saturday, January 1st in Tampa, Florida. Kickoff time is noon Eastern. Spread's going Penn State here by 1, so the spread here is just about as close as it can get there, with Penn State slightly favored. Over-under is 48, and the FPI is going Penn State here 58.5%. So the spread is going just 1 point towards Penn State, but the FPI slightly heavier towards the Penn State Nittany Lions here. Series history, it's also the first matchup between these two teams in both their histories. Here's your stat comparison for this game. Penn State 26 points a game, 16 points allowed, 274 passers a game, 106 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, 208 passing, 135 for rushing. And something that you'll notice here with Penn State, this is a football team that statistically on defense, their defense has been excellent all season long based off of stats. They got tremendous talent all over the defensive side of the ball. But offensively, this team has been a bit inconsistent. Sean Clifford, of course, their quarterback, he's had a good season, 2,900 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 6 picks as well. So, he hasn't had a terrible season for this offense, and he's got his top receiver there, Jahan Dotson. He has been a major impact player for this offense, over 1,100 yards of receiving and 12 touchdowns. So a couple of key impact players to watch out for there, but defensively, this football team, 16 points allowed per game. That is a very impressive stat there. But as for Arkansas, 31 points per game, 24 points allowed, 223 passers a game, 217 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, he got 215 passing, 156 for rushing. So for Arkansas here, this is a football team that offensively very balanced. They've got a lot of talent. KJ Jefferson, he's had a great season. Not many people expected him to come out of nowhere and have a great year, but here he is, 2,500 yards, 21 touchdowns, 3 picks. He's had a great year for the Razorbacks. And the thing is here for Arkansas that definitely needs to be mentioned here is that their top receiver, Treylon Burks, he is actually not going to be in this game. He is declared for the NFL draft, and he will be skipping this bowl game, unfortunately, for the Razorbacks. So that's going to be a tough loss there for this offense. But otherwise, they still got tremendous talent on this offense. They should be just fine. Some recent matchups: Penn State lost to Michigan State 27-30, beat Rutgers 28-0, shut out the Scarlet Knights there in that matchup. Lost to Michigan by 4, 17-21, beat Maryland 31-14, lost to Ohio State 24-33. So you can see, this defense has played phenomenal in a lot of games this season. They haven't had a blowout loss or a big-time loss at all. This is a football team that, looking at their schedule, all 5 of their losses are within a couple of scores, and most of those losses, 4 out of the 5, are within a score. So, Penn State has kept it very close in a lot of games. Unfortunately, a few games haven't gone their way. But, this is a football team that could easily be 10-2, 11-1 right now. They've got the talent to be up there, but they've just been on the wrong side of a couple of tough games, like that Illinois loss, for example, 9 overtimes. Final score is 20-18. That's just a brutal loss that you probably shouldn't take there. And from there on, this team did lose 3 more games. But, otherwise, it hasn't been a bad season for Penn State. This team has got a huge amount of talent. They just haven't been able to win a few of the close ones. But as for Arkansas, beat Missouri 34-17. Lost to Alabama only by a touchdown. This team kept it very close in a tough road environment against the Crimson Tide. But it still was a loss, but it was very close. Beat LSU on the road 16-13 in overtime. Beat Mississippi State 31-28, and also beat UAPB in their matchup on October 23rd. There 45-3. So Arkansas down the stretch, they've got a pretty tough schedule. Even in the SEC, no matter what, you're gonna have a tough schedule. It's just a brutal conference. But down the stretch, they have played Georgia, got shut out to them, lost to Ole Miss by 1 in a brutal loss, lost to Auburn, and once again lost to Alabama there. But this team has got they got several quality wins too. If you look at their their schedule. They beat Texas, number 15 team in the nation, back in week 2, beat Texas A&M. That was a huge win, beat Mississippi State. They were ranked number 17 when they played them. So, yeah, Arkansas, they have showed up well in most of their big games. Some key points here. Penn State 7-5, talented team that has been inconsistent down the stretch. Tremendous talent. I mean, this is a very talented football team here with Penn State, but they just haven't been able to close out some of the closer games in this season. But yeah, they're extremely talented. I mean, Penn State they've played close in every single game that they've lost. I mean, they haven't been blown out or had just a terrible game this season. They've been excellent down the stretch in that way. But defense has been the strength of this football team. They only allowed 33 points to Ohio State. Buckeyes, one of the best offenses in the country, and Michigan, of course, only allowed 21 to them. I mean, this team has kept it very close once again, but offense hasn't been able to get it done in some situations, which has been a factor here. But some notable wins: they did beat Wisconsin. That's a key win there, and also beat Auburn. Don't forget about that, and also beat Maryland. And Maryland, that was a 31-14 win. So that was a significant win there for the Nittany Lions. But as for Arkansas here, they've won 4 of their last 5. So momentum-wise, they got quite a bit. You could consider more than Penn State, but I mean, key wide receiver there, Treylon Burks, definitely a key impact player. That's going to be a tough loss here for the Razorbacks. Penn State really doesn't have any tremendously significant losses. They got a couple of players on defense, but otherwise, I mean, this team looks pretty good. But Arkansas, of course, that's going to be a tough loss there for this game. But notable wins: Texas A&M, Mississippi State, and LSU. But that being said, let's get to the prediction here for Penn State and Arkansas Outback Bowl matchup. I'm going to go with the Nittany Lions here. 28-24 is my predicted final score, and this is about as tough as it gets to predict a football game. You got so many factors at play here, but Penn State, I'm just more confident in picking this football team right now. They've kept it close against some very good football teams. Michigan currently in the college football playoff. This team almost beat them. They were very close to Ohio State, very close to Michigan State, also a very good football team. So Penn State, this team is better than their record, like 7-5. 7-5 doesn't look very good, but Penn State could easily be a 10-11 win football team right now based off of the talent that they do have. And I mean, if you look at Arkansas here, Arkansas's also got some great performances. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, they had a touchdown loss to Alabama, one of the best teams in the country. But I mean, I'm just more confident in Penn State right now. They've played excellent down this stretch, and I think that the Nittany Lions in the end show up and they get it done 20-24, 51% towards Penn State. So once again, pretty much a coin toss. Both teams are very capable of winning this game. So Arkansas fans would not be surprised one bit if the Razorbacks won this game. I mean, it's pretty much a coin toss. You got so many factors here, but I do think for Arkansas, not having Treylon Burks, that's kind of the key factor that separated these two teams for me. Penn State, they've got their top receiver in Jahan Dotson, who's been a major impact player. But for Arkansas, Treylon Burks, who has been an outstanding receiver all season, Arkansas does not have him. So, I mean, if you compare it there, I mean, Penn State does have an edge. And I think in the end, when it's as close of a matchup as this one is, I think Penn State gets the win 20-24. But that being said, let me know your thoughts and comments below on this game. And I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you all later.